recent that I've covered that I've enjoyed. I've actually been, I've been on a lot of leave lately, so maybe not right now. But what I did really enjoy and really I think was like an important part of storytelling is like sharing stories from your own community and your own culture, faith and background. To take a week off and feel like you've missed a complete news cycle and you just feel very out of the loop. I think naturally it does sometimes create a habit of like overworking and which naturally obviously gets you very tired and you get burnt out, like domino effect style. So no, she hasn't. I think probably learning or having to talk about sports that I didn't know a lot about. I think the side of being like having not that women in the industry, not that women black, not that many black women, not that many Muslim women. It's just a very small. You're like a minority within a minority within a minority.
If you don't believe, nobody else is going to believe.
To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode by your boys, the Paper Trails Podcast. I'm your host, Shamaki, and today I'm joined by a very, very special guest, especially in the Somali community. She goes by the name Fadumo, who is a Sky Sports journalist, and we're more than happy to have you on. And thank you very much for taking the time out to actually come out here and talk to us.
No, don't worry, it's all good. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, no, of course, and of course, you do amazing things at the moment, and we'll definitely get into that. But first, I kind of want everyone to know just a bit of your background. When it comes to reading, because this is a book-based podcast, as well as creativity. To be fair, it doesn't necessarily just have to be books. But what was the first, I would say, like sort of book that had the most, I guess, impact on you?
I think I can't like remember that far back, which I feel like I should
Yeah.
a little bit. But I'd probably say like I had a very, I guess, probably the normal Somali background of coming from Team Scandinavia slash Holland
Yeah,
in the early
of
two
course, yeah.
thousands. Yeah, exactly. And
On the bus. Was it
exactly.
Sweden?
No, it was Denmark.
Denmark. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Denmark.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so I came from like 2004. So yeah, reading books was definitely big in my
Yeah.
household. My mum was very much of the opinion like you guys need to learn English and you need to learn it well. Like my kids stopped learning
Yeah.
like as a Somali mum is. So I think definitely like just I don't know, maybe this is like not one to admit, but like just really standard like kids teen books like anything Jack
Yeah.
Robinson,
Young.
anything like Valerie
Yeah.
Blackman, Harry Potter, like very
Yeah.
nerdy, geeky stuff. But I
Any
think it's great.
Twilight?
Definitely Twilight.
Definitely Twilight.
Definitely Twilight.
Yeah.
Very shamelessly admitted to I did read them quite a few times. I think it's good market research for the films. Just
No, of course, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure it's
yeah, yeah.
quite applicable.
A few times the books, yeah.
Is that bad to admit?
No.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, no, I
We've had
am
a few
like,
Twilight fans on here, to be fair.
yeah, probably I do have that habit of reading like a lot of books again and again. So like Blackman was like Noughts and Crosses, Boys Don't Cry,
Yeah.
those type of books, which I think I do remember reading quite a few times, which I think shows a lot for my lack of memory because it feels new every time I end up reading it again.
Yeah.
Um,
Or you could just be really enjoying it.
that is true. Or I could really
Because
enjoy the
that's
all
yeah.
Khalid Hosseini's books. They're also quite good. So like just I wouldn't say very fictional based stuff. Very
Yeah.
like in your own world. None of it's true, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Somewhere
also
to escape to.
yeah, and I also like the idea of like I don't know, maybe it's like the creativeness, but like the idea of like how has someone even come up with this and made it fun?
Yeah.
How have you got the story
Yeah.
in your head? I don't understand. So
Like
like
all of this stuff, like especially the ones where they build the whole new world. Like I guess like for example, Harry Potter is one because it's like, but then again, it's kind of mixed of school and like real life and stuff like that. But like something like
yeah,
Lord of the Rings, where it's all made up, and the guy goes into like doing tribes and genealogies and who's the son of who and this and that, and then it's like, oh wow, this guy he's either really into it or his mind is just something else.
yeah, exactly. It's like a cross between crazy and just very creative. I feel like with those type of
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, I think that was definitely my into books, which like naturally helped with like language and
Yeah,
communication skills. So like just picking up the English language very quickly and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
but I think naturally as I got older and probably to everyone's like relief, I got out of those like very leafy books and just got into like I guess a bit self development and growing up.
Yeah, but I always feel like obviously the self-development books are really, really good, but I feel like you can also just you can learn about yourself just as much from a good fictional book that you like,
Yeah,
especially if characters have grounding to it. Like for example, I always reference Lord of the Rings, but for me that was like at one point everything,
yeah,
um, like from the characters to who they were, how they were. And like I really took on board some of their personality traits.
yeah,
But one thing that I have to say is that, especially I would say among the Somali sisters, they they're like way more into reading. I've noticed than
yeah,
Somali guys.
yeah.
Like it is like a massive, massive difference between kind of from what I've seen as well. And obviously, you might not know the reason to it all, but it's kind of like, what would you say would be one of the reasons for that?
Oh my god, that's a really hard one.
Yeah, just put you on. You're the voice for every
Voice
Somali.
of all Somalis in the world. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. I would say I feel like a lot of
Uh,
books or a lot of genres cater to that, like romance novice type narrative. And I don't
yeah.
know. There's like a, I
You
think
say
girls,
deep down inside, they're all just
yeah, you know what I mean. Like
romantics.
girls are like a sucker for like romance story. I think, or like something that themes of like friendship or themes of things that like
Yeah,
genuinely. Not that saying that guys aren't interested in friendship, but probably not the same
yeah,
mentioned in like Jacqueline Wilson's books and Tracy Beaker's
yeah,
other books. Um, so I don't know. I think maybe that's probably why.
yeah,
Yeah, I also maybe think like it's just who you're exposed to because the people I know in my life, like men or women, tend to read books. But then I guess maybe
yeah,
that's the people I'm around. So
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't really put it down. And also, I think in Somali household we have this whole culture of like not speaking for every single household once again as the voice of
yeah.
Somali reasoning.
Could be dangerous.
Yeah, it could be dangerous, but like my mum thought the biggest stigma of my life when I was like 15, 16 was Tracy Beaker. She's like,
Yeah,
"No, sure, and stop reading the books.
yeah,
Why are you reading this? It's not beneficial to you." But I think the benefit may not be like in addition or science or everything else that in an
yeah,
academic sense, but the benefit might be just challenging your brain a little bit differently. So I think
yeah.
maybe
Of
it's
course.
a household thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me personally, I think it's a very endearing thing, like especially because how I realized it was when we first started this, Inspire the reading and stuff like that, and when we put it out, the first like people that it reached and the first people that saw it initially were like the sisters, and it was like, okay, this is like it was that you could see like there was a lot more avid like podcast groups, other podcasts that are really into reading, into that, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually kind of cool how um like it felt almost like every other person that you would talk to was a reader, would be able to have a engaging conversation about reading and obviously the importance of it. And I think one of the importance of it, like you said, was expanding your mind. And I think you mentioned before that, it helped with your storytelling. And were you into writing just as much as reading?
I wouldn't say in like growing up, I was
Did you go through your spoken word phase?
yeah, I did. I think
Yeah.
as a rite of passage for all Somalis to go. But I didn't. It wasn't eventually. It was more like just words. It was never really.
Yeah.
Spoken, like
No, no, of course, of
it never
course.
made itself to like public platforms because I was
Yeah,
too.
there's no judgments here, of
No,
course.
100%. But I was just like way too
Yeah.
scared. I was way too scared for it.
Yeah.
Which is irony now because I do a job where I'm like in front of people. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I definitely think like books and stuff have helped to like some type of degree, especially when I was like now that I'm a lot older. But growing up, I was just very much like the sporty type.
Yeah.
Love to be outside. Love to be involved in anything that was like messy and like fun,
Yeah.
like whether it was playing football
Okay.
or
Yeah, yeah,
netball or rounders, baseball.
Yeah.
It was a thing in Denmark. I realized that baseball's not a thing here. But anyway,
Baseball, did you say?
yeah, we did a lot of baseball in
Yeah,
Denmark. No? Okay.
no such thing. No such thing here.
Yeah, it's not here. But yes, I don't think it had so much contribution to, I guess, like it didn't lead so much to my writing until I was a lot older. And
Yeah.
I think the skill of reading and the skill of writing are very two different things, because I actually didn't realize how bad of a writer I was until I started working towards being a journalist. So I
Okay.
remember
Yeah.
the first articles I ever submitted to my like wonderful line manager at the time was
Yeah.
like Anna Kessel, and she's like a sport journalist, like hero of mine.
Yeah.
I think the first article I submitted to her was based on Ramadan, and it was
Yeah.
around like interviews a bunch of different women
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
either they were fasting or they weren't fasting due to health
Yeah.
reasons, various things. But I
Yeah.
think I wrote it in like three different tenses, the whole article. Like it was first person, third person, like
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's going
so
all out.
it was all out. But I think
Yeah.
what I loved about working with her and the team that I worked with at Telegraph Women's Sports is that I think they saw a natural interest for writing and a natural interest for
Yeah.
reading, so they kind of helped nurture it a bit.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that I was like a really keen like reader and like I liked books and I
Yeah.
liked articles and I was just nosy, so I think that naturally kind of
Yeah.
my journalistic career, like it just sped up the process of writing and helped me get better quicker.
Okay. Yeah. I think that you actually touched on quite a few interesting points there. Um, Especially when it came to like understanding your writing level, because like from my own experience, I always, as a kid, for some reason, I don't know who lied to me, but I thought I was a pretty good writer,
Yeah.
until I showed my friend Mohammed that I did a podcast with one of my books, like the first few chapters, and like obviously he cooked it essentially, but in a positive way.
That's good.
And then now when I kind of look back at it, yeah, I'm embarrassed I even like showed him something like that. Like everything was off, the grammar, all of that. So it's kind of like leading into this question. It's like uh when they like obviously when your line manager showed you where you went wrong and all these kind of things, um what mainly was it that you kind of took from that to improve your writing?
I
Was
think
it
yeah.
being concise? Was it like less words? Was it just um, your tenses, like you were saying?
Yeah, I definitely tenses was a big one. I really need to
Yeah.
sort that out from the day. But I think what was for me was I think I took writing like reading in the sense that
Mm.
I could happily read like a full book in a day. But if
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
reading on like a news article, you don't want to read that much. You would like
Yeah.
read.
Yeah.
So
That's the
she
interesting
definitely
part. It's like translating like
yeah
writing. Let's say because translating fiction to like articles completely different. An
yeah
article is like it has to be concise in a way, concise, and it's like yeah. Sorry, as you were saying, because that's interesting. Because
yeah
for
exactly.
me, it's always about understanding how writing in different platforms, even writing a blog post, can be so much different to like writing a newsletter, to like writing, like you said, an article.
Yeah, and also like writing is subjective. I guess like someone could listen into this podcast and
Yeah.
write a concise version of it, and it would be one
Yeah.
version to what someone else has written. So that
Yeah.
was the other
Exactly.
thing is
Yeah.
I'm sat with like people who are trusting me with their stories over a period of like 45 minutes. So how do I put that into like 1,000 words and do it justice?
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that was a big, but I think at first it was very much just like trusting the creativity, like letting me just write and write and write
Yeah.
and like not putting like a word limit on me. Like like at the time I also had like a really great editor as well who I remember like I once did an interview which was supposed to be 1,000 words. I think I
Yeah.
submitted like 1,700.
Okay.
She looked
Yeah.
at me like we don't
Yeah.
have
You're
enough
just
time.
enjoying your writing, huh?
Yeah, I was really going in on it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the art of like concising my words, but
Mm.
also not taking away from the story was something like every
Yeah.
word has to be meaningful. That's the one thing I
Yeah.
learned, like
Yeah.
working. And I'm really glad I went through that route of like being a or working amongst like writers and news
Yeah.
reporters, like whose like bread and butter is writing,
Yeah.
because you really learn how to tell stories in like a really important and efficient ways, and you really
Yeah.
make every word like meaningful or
I mean,
purposeful.
yeah.
Words that you don't you can waste it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um, And
Because
obviously, like
that's
to meet.
like,
So,
sorry, no, just to touch up on it, because it's like for me, I always like to kind of um, understand the creative and writing aspects of everyone essentially, and seeing how they go about it. And I always and like you said, the aspect of taking someone's story that they've told you. Sometimes when they tell you a story, how do they do it? Is it like through a voice note? Is it like an interview and then you have to translate that into writing, or is it you just kind of write up on their story from like things you've read?
it's a mixture of stuff. So sometimes,
Yeah,
like if it's like a great like an interview that's been set up and we've had time to do it, for example, it would be like there might be an event, or this person
yeah,
might contact this person to do an interview. So we'll go to meet them and we'll be sat down with them, and it will be like even prior to the interview, like just even the interaction you have before, and
yeah,
you kind of get a gist of like how to tell this story. And sometimes like stuff like the movement and the interactions that they have,
yeah.
you can use that in your writing. So that was like something I learned a lot later, is like just
Oh,
trying to set
okay.
a tone with what you're
Yeah,
writing.
yeah.
um and then but sometimes like it's not
Mm.
like that's like probably the best setup you can get, and it's like every journalist's dream.
Yeah,
But other
yeah,
times like you just need like a quote or a line from a person, so you're just like voice it and be like, okay, this and this has come out, like,
yeah,
this statement's come out, this transfer news is happening, what do you
yeah,
have on it? And you just and they voice note you back an answer, and that's pretty much it. So
yeah, yeah. And you have to
sometimes you're
work
just like,
around that.
that's the other extreme. And for that one, you'd have to find a lot of context and like do
Yeah,
a lot of research outside of it.
mm,
Um, but yeah, it can be really mixed. But I think the ones that I definitely like remember and I've enjoyed are the ones where I've had the chance to really, I guess, either interact with the person via, obviously, like it was COVID times when I started my
yeah.
job at the Telegraph, so a lot of it was via Zoom, but even in
Okay,
person,
yeah,
those things, because you learn how to tell a story from even like from the moment you meet them to the moment you leave. It's not just
yeah.
say, which is quite nice.
Oh, that's actually really, really interesting. I can't lie. That's actually hella insightful. Um, like I said, it's like taking someone's story and then bringing it down to 1,000 words. Because to be fair, 1,000 words is pretty small. It's
Yeah,
not.
it
It's not.
is.
It's not
It's
that
not,
much.
no,
So
it's not.
it's like, do you feel the pressure of having like letting maybe the person down of not really being able to tell their story, or is it kind of like, okay, this is what I just have to do, I have to bring it down, or do you kind of feel that sort of guilt, I guess, of like, okay, wow, let me actually try and you know bring these words down?
Yeah, definitely. Like you'll get some people you interview, and they'll have like so many quotes, which are all amazing. And you'll just like, I think
Like,
there's
which one do
sometimes,
I use?
yeah, what do I use?
Yeah,
Like I had a really like probably one of the most important interviews that I did for myself, and like, and I really enjoyed it, was interviewing Ramla Ali, who obviously
yeah, okay, yeah, the
Somali
boxer,
boxer.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
and we obviously spoke a lot about her story, but that was quite important to me because obviously shared experiences of both being
yeah,
surrounded by
yeah,
women, both being in sport in different
yeah,
capacities. But she just had so much good stuff to say, and it was like
yeah.
I spoke to her for like a good hour, and then I'm sat there
Oh
afterwards like,
wow,
how do I make this
yeah.
900
That's what I'm
words?
saying. Like a whole hour worth of,
Yeah, so you do
stuff.
feel like
Yeah,
a little bit pressure from it because I'm like, oh my god, like what if she hates it?
yeah.
Alhamdulillah, no one's told me they hate it yet,
Good, alhamdulillah.
which is good. Um,
Was there ever like something great that you had to leave out because of like just story space?
Oh yeah, there's been loads. Like there's like, if just whether like, I've told like if you've told a story and I'm trying to think of an example of who I've spoken to. Um God, brain froze. Oh, so I spoke to like Lotte Ruben Moy, who's Arsenal women and England defender. She's going to the Women's
Okay.
World
Yeah,
Cup,
yeah,
yeah, which is great. And I did an
yeah.
interview with her and Ian Wright because they did some partnership work.
Okay. Yeah.
Ian Wright, former Arsenal player. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like some people might just not know football, so
Yeah.
I have to clarify who
Just have
everybody
to
is.
clarify for them. Yeah, yeah, of
Like,
course.
not anyway. Um, I was about to out my friend who thought Ian Wright was a swimmer called
Oh,
Ian.
that's disgusting.
Called
That's
Ian Thorpe,
disgusting.
who's by the way Australian. So that, anyways,
Uh,
that's like a
the
complete different
fact that you even call that person a friend still, that's ridiculous.
great friend. But yeah, so I think yeah, so we interviewed them. It was in a community with like Hackney Laces, this amazing like
Yeah.
group for young women in Hackney, and there was just so many good quotes and so many good moments.
Yeah.
I included it all, but I was like over my word limit by like 800.
Yeah.
So
Oh wow. Yeah.
word limits has never been my strength. I've gotten better,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was just, and I think it's also important just to have like work towards your strength. Like I know my strength is telling a story and not
Yeah.
necessarily like making it concise and maybe not the
Yeah.
plan behind it and all that type of nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
worked on my strength, which was the storytelling part, and I had good people around me. Like I had great
Yeah.
colleagues and great editors who, whenever I'd done a story, I'd be like, "Hey, cool, do you
Can
mind?"
check
Like,
it out. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I like, what the hell, and other times I like, actually, no, I didn't need that much work, and I'm like,
Yeah.
sorry in advance.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's probably like the only time where I felt like, oh my god, there's so many moments I wanted to add into this
To
piece.
add in. Yeah.
But I think overall it was a good piece, and I think they liked it. Like no one's got back to me to say otherwise. I
Say
always
what
believe
the
in
hell's going on.
yeah, I always believe in journalism. If no one says anything to you, like if it's silent, that's a good
Yeah.
thing because that means.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas if someone comes back to you, it's usually because you've messed up somewhere.
Yeah. Something's wrong. Yeah.
I've never. It's always been very quiet.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I think that's probably the only time where I've been like, oh, there's
Yeah.
so much I could add to this, but I can't, and it's so annoying. But no,
You should
alhamdulillah.
have like just like a little backlog somewhere where you just put all the stuff
I
that you had
should
to
have.
take
I
out.
did. I moved and I did all years ago. I've got like the
Ah,
original and stuff like that. But
yeah.
going forward, I think I might do that.
But now, so to kind of go back again to your background as well into reading, a lot of that was obviously even now you mentioned like adding like storytelling was your strongest aspect, and I kind of wanted to know from you like what to you makes a good story. Like what ingredients do you kind of look for that makes you go, oh wow, okay, I'll sit through this.
Oh god, that's quite hard. I think
Yeah, I'm,
something
I'm throwing it all out at you today.
it's going to be quite hard. I think something that hasn't been told, something that's been told in a way like you haven't heard it before. Like I quite like learning something new
Yeah,
about people. So again, and I think also storytelling and reading and everything else is so subjective. Like what I might
yeah,
like, you might not like, or someone else might
that's
not
true.
like.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I love to hear something a little bit different, something that you just wouldn't
Mm,
expect
yeah,
from a person. So I guess in the context of the field I work in, like I'm speaking to an athlete, professional footballer, they live
yeah,
and breathe football, but
yeah,
I don't know, they might play the guitar in their spare time and nobody knows. For
yeah,
me, they might be learning different languages. All of
yeah.
these just random bits of information I think is quite nice. And I think actually not talking about the subject that much, like I think what
Mm,
makes a good story is like everyone likes context. Everyone likes to feel like they know the person they're watching and they know the
yeah,
person that like, they're reading about. They want to
yeah.
like this person is next to them. So being able to really like wholly sell it and tell them,
Mm,
I guess, their childhood, their experiences, what they love,
yeah,
hate, that type of stuff. So
yeah,
yeah, I think everything but the subject I think is quite important in a storytelling. It's like kind of focus on all the extra bits and really make the reader or the person who's viewing it feel like this is their friend or this is someone they know.
yeah. That they're just part of the convo that two
Yeah,
people are going
exactly.
through. Yeah. And so obviously you being young and then coming up, was getting into journalism always kind of what you wanted, or did it kind of just happen?
I definitely say it kind of just happened. It
Yeah,
was,
because one thing I've realized, especially from interviews and stuff like that, is that a lot of people um, end up in a different direction to how they started out, which is always very interesting because that's why I always find it's so difficult as kids. You're told to know what you want to
yeah,
be and then to like obviously set goals for it and whatnot. And I guess it helps to a certain extent, but I don't know if there's ever a point where you go, okay, this is what I want to be,
yeah,
and then you go and then you just stay, you know. So I kind of wanted to know your route to, I guess, becoming a journalist
yeah. I'll definitely
and
say,
eventually into sports.
yeah. I think it was definitely like not your typical route. Like I didn't set out to be a sports journalist or a journalist
Yeah.
because I know, like, I don't know about you, but I know in my household you were only exposed to certain fields and professions. So it
Oh,
was
doctor or
very,
lawyer.
yeah, doctor, lawyer. If you didn't make the cut, maybe a teacher. Like
Yeah,
if your grades weren't so promising, maybe a few other things.
yeah,
So I wouldn't even like. I think as a kid, I couldn't even tell you how people became journalists, and I didn't even know like this was the depth of journalism. Like there's so many different roles.
yeah,
But I was definitely someone that just tried a lot of stuff and
yeah,
I have a tendency of like if I get bored, I just switch jobs. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, which I was
This
definitely
is
like,
going out on air. Everyone's gonna
yeah, I
know
know.
this.
Not planning on switching from Sky Sports News anytime. I love it so much fun.
Yeah.
But I was definitely as a like I'd say definitely in my late teens, coming into like my early 20s, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and like I was going to uni, but I wasn't sure about being at uni, all of this type of stuff. I
Yeah.
just jobs a lot. Like I did everything. I worked at like a school, and because I thought I was going to be a teacher, and then I
Yeah.
realized too much work behind this. I was like, I can't do this. I
Yeah.
worked for like charities at a youth center, which I love. So that's probably the only job that I thought, oh my god, I could do this for a career. I'm
Yeah.
in the youth center now because they've all left.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Exarth and yeah,
Yeah.
everyone, they're like lovely. But I worked at a call center. I worked like in just random stuff. Like I can't
Yeah.
tell you how much bizarre stuff it was.
Bizarre.
Yeah, like just job after job.
Just
After, like
why am I just picture you even working underground on top of
you
the
know,
like
I worked like I think it was like a 6 months. I think I had like a 6 month rotation for about 4 years of my life. Like
yeah.
it's about 8 jobs. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just really out there.
I was doing TA work. Then I went to do a call center. Then I worked for a charity. Then I worked
Yeah.
with schools like telling everyone to walk and cycle everywhere, which was really random.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That is.
yeah, I worked at my council, I worked in sports development. I just worked in so many
Yeah.
things, and I was like,
Yeah.
I loved it in the moment, but I just didn't see myself doing this.
Yeah.
And
Doing
everyone
it.
you
Yeah.
speak to, career wise, like if you speak to colleagues, especially when you work with them in this industry, they will all tell you, like, oh my God, I love it here. Or some of them,
Yeah.
I hate it here. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, when are you planning on moving? They're like, I've been here
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
years. I'm like, but how? Like, how can you be somewhere you don't like for that long?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
I
Of
always had a
course.
fear of that was like being stuck in something I didn't like and just
Yeah.
accepting it because it paid the bills or it
Yeah.
do everything else. So I think that fear drove me into just finding something I liked, which eventually
Yeah.
ended up being like journalism,
Yeah.
which was great. And then yeah, once I found something I liked, I just became like an overworker,
Mm.
a yes man. I was always available at any
Anything, you're just ready for it. Yeah.
tea, coffee, absolutely, I would make it for you. Alhamdulillah, all of that obviously led to like a
Yeah.
great opportunity and like a great place where I am. But yeah, I think just try, trial and error.
Yeah.
That's probably literally how I describe my life: trial and error.
Try to do it your whole life.
Trial and
Now, but one thing I will say though it is a good quality, I guess, to have that even like you might not even see it as a big thing, but it kind of is the ability to kind of move away from something you don't like. A lot
yeah,
of people will just keep themselves there regardless of, like you said, because they have to pay the bills, because they have to do X, Y, Z. But the ability to actually leave and seek discomfort um, by doing something that you know you're not ready for just yet, or like leaving somewhere that's a bit secure to then go and pursue what you want is actually kind of like the high key very good. Like it's like it's
I'm glad it worked out for me. I don't think my mum would have said the same. Like I would have been absolutely
yeah.
early
But like I
on.
think
Yeah,
everyone kind of that ends up where they kind of want to be are ones that are willing to, leave a certain place or risk something by not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, but knowing, okay, this is the direction I'm going to take towards, you
yeah.
know, finding what I want. And obviously, alhamdulillah for you, it eventually it happened.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And I also think it's like, for me, it was very important. I was, alhamdulillah, so fortunate I was around
Yeah,
good people. So,
yeah,
like, I started at Exarth, like a charity called Together as One, as a volunteer. And
yeah,
I started running a girls group with them. And like, my colleague became my best friend from that group. And
yeah,
my boss at Exarth, Rob, became like my guide on telling me, like, giving me the,
yeah,
you know, telling me like, okay, cool. If you come in this morning, you can go and like go to this event in the afternoon, or maybe
yeah,
go to this sports function that day. He was so flexible because he kind of knew like I wanted to do something different, but I didn't know what it was. But I also was
yeah, yeah,
job at the same time. So I think,
yeah.
alhamdulillah, like having someone in the midst of all of that, that was just like allowing you to grow and allowing you.
Yeah, yeah, allow you to kind of feel out and space out to see
Yeah,
what, whilst giving you that security of still having what
yeah,
you're
and
currently doing.
alhamdulillah, it was so good because whilst being here, like I really appreciate the job and I love
Yeah,
being here. And I like, I'd show up to girls group like be like, oh my god, this is amazing, and I love all the girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I was so enthusiastic for it because, like, yeah, alhamdulillah, like Rob and everyone else in the team just really made a conscious effort to just
Yeah.
allow that space, and it's probably why I know like a lot of people that come to or have been part of this youth center just never leave. It's like a running
Yeah.
joke. Exarth. It's like once you become an Exarth employee, you never really leave. And I know,
Yeah. And what does the youth charity, what does it do?
yeah. So Exarth is a charity. Well, Together as One actually, because it's just called Together as One now. It
Yeah.
means Exarth means together as one in Hindu, Urdu, and Punjabi, and it was
Okay.
originally around like the conflict around the South Asian communities in the late 80s/early 90s. And then since then, it's developed to just helping young people in the local communities. So they have like
Yeah.
groups around like a girls group, which like focuses on mental health awareness,
Yeah.
self-confidence, esteem, like, and really supporting very vulnerable girls. And especially with the boys group, work with boys who are targeted youth offenders. They honestly cover everyone, like whether you are
Yeah.
low in confidence, whether you need work experience, whether you are from a vulnerable background, whether you're a young carer, like AXARS
Yeah.
with everyone. So yeah, alhamdulillah, like being part of that network really helped. And it's probably why like it's been 5 years since I left my job and I'm still coming back all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Really 5 years.
No.
Yeah.
No, but obviously it's amazing, and you can kind of see why you would come back because of the environment that it kind of gives you,
Yeah,
and
alhamdulillah.
and obviously being the backbone in towards you reaching where you are now. Um, and then to move your story along, essentially, so now you've become a sports journalist. Was it all a journalist? Was it first at Sky or was it somewhere else before you kind of got to Sky?
I originally worked so I did a lot of freelancer work before I started the Telegraph. So I
Yeah,
did a podcast, I did some freelancing work at Give Me Sports, and then I got an opportunity to work with Telegraph for their
yeah,
Telegraph Women's Sports Desk. And although my role initially started as social media editor, I think because I
yeah,
finally found something that I really enjoyed and I wanted to excel in, I was like
yeah.
eager beaver, like, can I write this
Give
story?
me
Can I
anything.
do
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course.
do this live blog? And I don't even, I wasn't great, like I was terrible at first, but like grew in confidence, grew in ability,
Yeah,
grew in knowledge and grew in contacts and all of those
yeah.
things. Yeah, eventually led me to a point where I was like, I want to do something a bit different, but
Mm.
still stay within the industry, which I feel like is the first adult decision I ever made in my life.
Okay. Yeah,
Let me just stick this industry out, alhamdulillah. Yeah, and then an opportunity, I just gambled, I guess. I
yeah.
gambled and stuff for us, very haram, but yeah,
You took the risk.
bad habits for worse. I took a risk, alhamdulillah, but yeah, I took a risk. Figured I was going to go freelance,
Yeah.
which sounds a lot easier than it is, but it's like the hardest thing in the world. So
Yeah, no, that's also, but freelancers in like you didn't know when the next client would be, or is it kind of
yeah, that's
like
freelance.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, so like handed in. I remember handing in my notice, serving out my notice period, and not having any projects coming up. So
You really are a risk taker.
yeah, but alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, when that time the Telegraph job came out, and not
Yeah,
Telegraph,
yeah.
so
Of course.
it worked out. Like I was only really a freelancer for like 3 weeks,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
back into employment.
Yeah,
Like some people just need to be told in life what to do, and they need to
yeah.
work with an
Nah, of
organization.
course.
And I found
Yeah,
like an organization that is great in terms of development and I really align with. And this guy's got great opportunities the same way that the Telegraph had. And yeah, I
yeah,
still have great people around me on both sides, alhamdulillah.
yeah.
But,
Was
yeah,
it Telegraph that you left and then became a freelancer for, and then became a freelancer, or was it before you left Telegraph became
no,
a
I left
freelancer?
Telegraph. Was supposed to become a freelancer, but this guy like found an
Oh,
opportunity.
this. Yeah, 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 yeah.
My freelancing dream was like 3 weeks long. Then I was
Freelancer. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, but yeah, alhamdulillah.
No, of course. And then how was it when you finally kind of got into Sky? Because obviously Sky is been around. Because obviously I'm a big sports fan, and obviously I'm sure you are. And Sky has just been kind of like that viewing platform for sports for the longest time that I know, anyway. So
Yeah.
how was it kind of like when you've done your freelancing for obviously 3 weeks, you've done your part at the Telegraph, and then you're kind of getting into sports and journalism, and then here comes like probably one of the biggest sports journalism companies that there is. How are you feeling when you kind of got that opportunity?
I definitely, I think I was definitely really shocked.
Yeah,
I remember being like, "Are you sure?" Which I
yeah,
you should ever tell someone like when they offer you a job. But
yeah.
alhamdulillah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it was just a bad moment from my part. I just wasn't really like wasn't expecting it. But
Are you sure?
yeah, no, it was pretty.
Yeah,
No, I don't. I think I don't really. I wouldn't say I knew what to expect. I think
yeah,
ignorance is bliss sometimes. Like I
yeah,
kind of just sometimes just blindly walking through life. So when I
yeah,
came into Sky, I had like huge ambitions, and I knew like Sky is definitely a place I could do it, and I knew that lots of people that had worked for Sky or continue to work at Sky that I'd like, reached out to and spoken to, and who'd like give me a lot of good advice. So I think when I came into it, I was just really excited. Yeah, and just really keen, and again like yes, like a yes
yeah,
woman. I'm like I'll do anything. Send me
yeah.
into any
Whatever
job.
you need.
Like
Yeah.
of course I'm an expert at cricket. Why wouldn't I do it? Yeah, don't ever oversell a sport that you don't know. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, nah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
Especially when people are like, okay, now write about it, and you're like,
yeah,
oh,
exactly. So no, alhamdulillah, and obviously like I've not been at Sky very long. I've only been here for a year or coming up to
yeah,
a year. But alhamdulillah, like I think in the time that I've been there, I've really like learned loads, interact with loads of people, learn a lot about different sports, um,
yeah,
and really I guess learn the skill set of being a reporter and a journalist from some of the best like in the industry.
yeah,
um, and some of them have been there for like 20 odd years, like
yeah.
25 plus. And it kind of makes my 1 year seem very insignificant, but it's
Nah,
like
nah,
a little bit of hope that alhamdulillah, I'll eventually know what I'm talking about in a few.
yeah, yeah. No, because I mean, obviously, I think it's amazing. Even some of the stuff that you do, some of the topics that you even cover, like the book on with Stormzy as well. Um, I feel like for me personally, it's always there. I don't know if you've come across an Instagram channel, I mean, page called Somali Athlete.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So like their page, the Coach Ikra, I think that's
Yeah.
her Instagram handle. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like always seeing even Ramla Ali, like always seeing like I feel like now this generation that's coming up, like our sort of generation, are getting more and more into like the mainstream spaces than we've ever done before. Like obviously you even got Chunks who's like now like Soccer Aid and you know. So for me, like it's always like heartwarming to kind of like see you, especially excelling up there, and and obviously represent yourself very well. And I wanted to know on the flip side of that is like, were there any moments of like self-doubt in the whole process, or was there a moment where you like maybe had to cover a topic or something and then on camera and you was like, oh, I don't really know if I'm quite ready for this.
Uh, sorry, my friend who I was telling you about, the Ian Thorpe, is actually
Uh,
in the room. So
oh goodness me.
anyway, she's a bit
I hope
traumatized.
she hasn't said another random fact that isn't true.
No, she hasn't. I think probably learning or having to talk about sports I didn't know a lot about. I think the side of being like having not that women in the industry, not that women black,
Yeah,
that many black women, not that many
yeah.
Muslim women. It's just a very small. You're like a minority within a minority within a
Yeah,
minority.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So I think I had a very tendency of being like, of course I can do anything. I'm great at everything.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's a lie because no one is.
yeah.
So yeah, being in situations where I probably don't know much about the sport I'm
Yeah,
talking about. So I think I've learned, alhamdulillah, to manage expectations a lot better. But
yeah,
yeah, I think a sense of imposter syndrome is definitely like what you naturally get in this type of industry to begin with.
yeah,
But alhamdulillah, you grow out of it. Grow out of it. I think that's like hikmah in everything you eventually do, and you learn that
yeah,
things just take a little bit of time, a little bit of
yeah. No,
pace. Like
of
I don't need
course.
to
Yeah,
cover everything in 2 months. I can cover it in like
yeah,
years.
yeah. You know what it sounds like is I interviewed another Sky Sports presenter. They used to cover hockey, ice hockey back in the day. Um, and he was talking about called Nick, and he was talking about essentially how when he was kind of getting into, because it's interesting that you said the imposter syndrome, because he said that when he got into it, he was also felt the same,
Yeah.
and also covering topics that he wasn't necessarily that great at, just to be able to, I guess, kind of like you were saying, to just cover, and due to eagerness. And he was saying that his level of, I guess, imposter syndrome actually kind of led him down a like sort of dark road, where he ended up, like drinking and stuff like that. Whereas, obviously, I'm not hoping that on you. And he's a great guy, and the way he even speaks is amazing. But I wanted to kind of be like, I feel like for you, mashallah, you still have that hold of, obviously, your deen. Nothing really feels like it's essentially um would get in the way of you, I guess,
I hope so.
spiraling
The goal.
in such a way. But can it get to a point where it can take a toll on mental health, being, I guess, in that space?
Yeah, I think so. There's definitely an aspect of feeling like you're falling behind, because
Yeah,
the news cycle moves very quickly.
yeah,
Like the same way that a manager will get sacked today and will be in the news today, and something else will happen tomorrow. So
so yeah,
you take a week off and feel like you've missed a complete news cycle, and you just feel very out of the loop.
yeah,
Naturally, it does sometimes create a habit of like overworking, and
yeah,
eventually, obviously, gets you very tired and you get burnt out, like
yeah,
domino effect style. So yeah, I think breaking that habit has been like really important. But alhamdulillah,
mm,
like I'm really grateful that I'm around like good
yeah,
people that
yeah,
also remind me that it's literally just a job at the end of the day. So,
yeah.
um,
That,
yeah, and I
that
think
looks like a
having like
very mature outlook on it.
yeah, I think having your feet on the ground in that aspects and realizing like alhamdulillah, the same way that it was given to you is the same way that it can be taken away from you.
Yeah,
So just like I'm trying to enjoy it more and not
yeah,
overthink it and not be like, oh my god, I
yeah.
don't
No, of course.
not get the next opportunity when like there's always loads of opportunities.
Yeah, and obviously, I feel like following along your storyline is like you being someone that's able to then just leave jobs like that. Um,
I don't just
it's,
leave jobs
no,
sporadically.
no, obviously not like that. Let me not,
Someone that
let
skylets
me not
and
make it so blunt.
I'm very
No,
generous
but
to my people.
it's like that fear that would usually be over the heads of people of like, losing this is like everything, and I feel like wouldn't necessarily be as strong towards you because you were able to move away from something, let's say, that you didn't like. Um, like I feel like for me, one of the most courageous things people can do is go into freelancing,
Yeah,
because at that
yeah,
point
definitely.
you're like, okay, all my eggs are in my own basket. It's not even someone else's basket. That's like everything is on you at this point. And I feel like someone that can have that mentality to is a good one to help you, I guess, keep grounded in understanding that this is just a job. Um, like you said, and I was going to ask, has there been anything currently that you've really enjoyed, or because I don't want to really say what's your best moment so far, because I feel like that's very broad and very vague.
Yeah,
Um, but anything recently that you've kind of covered that you really enjoyed,
anything recent that I've covered that I've enjoyed. I've
and
actually
like
been
getting your teeth stuck into,
As I've been on a lot of leave lately, so maybe not right now. But what I did really enjoy and really I think was like an important part of storytelling is like sharing stories from your own community and your own culture,
Yeah,
faith and background. So Ramadan was like the one thing I really looked forward to in the sporting calendar was like talking to athletes
yeah,
about Ramadan. So I spent a fair share of my time going to like open iftars and talking
yeah,
to athletes and players about what Ramadan means to them. And I think for me it was like also like a really informative process because like I think my version of what Ramadan means to me is a very like singular look at it. So
yeah,
you hear other people's perspective, like, oh my god, that's really
yeah.
important. That's great to hear. So yeah, I definitely think throughout the month of Ramadan, the
Especially
way
someone in like the sports world that's like having to play throughout it.
yeah, definitely. So being able to hear lots of different perspectives around like what Ramadan means to them, I think was really good, and I really enjoyed doing that over a period of like what 4 weeks.
Yeah. Are you able to share one story that's
Uh,
like, because I
one,
always find it fascinating in terms of how they are able to play through it.
So yeah, I spoke to Saeed Ben Rama, Kurt Zuma, and Naif at West Ham.
Yeah,
Literally during Ramadan, it was like an open iftar that West Ham are hosting, and
yeah,
Hawa Sissoko, who plays for West Ham women's team.
yeah,
So
yeah,
um, yeah, we all spoke about Ramadan importance, but what was really nice is like the interview was only supposed to be with Saeed Ben Rama and Kurt Zuma, but
yeah.
Naif just was walking past and he just happens to join in.
So it's a joy. Yeah,
And like that interaction and them talking about like brotherhood and what
yeah,
Ramadan means to them and how I think sometimes you don't take or the things that we appreciate about Ramadan is like family and being able to like
yeah,
eat good and be around people and a lot of these professionals don't have that because they move countries, they're on contracts,
yeah,
very unpredictable. So making a family out of like the circumstance you're in. So
yeah,
yeah, that was quite good. I really enjoyed listening or just seeing that interaction unfold and trying to capture
yeah.
was really good.
That's actually a good point, because Ramadan essentially a lot of it is family.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can't I can't picture Ramadan without family,
Yeah,
without some
exactly.
boost and like your mom there, your family there, everyone there ready to eat. So that's actually an interesting point. Like in terms of like also like because they might have to be traveling as well, so it'll just be what like they're just breaking fast in a hotel room, and then they're not necessarily thing good. I was going to say, if you had currently anything that you was working on, or anything for you that's coming up, or anything that you're excited for.
Oh my God. I wouldn't really know if there's anything exciting that I'm working on in that sense.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm excited for the Women's World Cup that's
yeah,
in July. So yeah, covering that. Obviously, it's in Australia, so it's a lot of early morning, like 9 a.m. football watching,
yeah,
like that. But I'm excited to cover or be involved in the coverage of that,
yeah,
which will be great. And yeah, I guess just for the season to start again,
yeah.
football is
Like,
fun.
what happens usually, like, though, when the season's like finished? Is it
Oh
just
no,
transfer news, or is it
no,
still
there's
like,
obviously lots of other projects to do and lots of other
yeah,
stories. Um, but some of the sports might not be to my strength, so I'm very
yeah?
excited for football to come back.
Nah, of course, of course. But
Yeah.
obviously, the Women's World Cup, I
Oh
feel
my
like
god,
it's
yeah,
right up your alley.
that's that's going to be huge. I'm really excited for that. Like the Euros was just such an amazing experience, and it was literally
Yeah,
like Alhamdulillah, got to Sky at such a good time because I started
alhamdulillah,
literally
yeah.
before the Euros. I went into
Okay, yeah, that must have been
yeah,
amazing to see, especially
yeah.
in Did you go to the Wembley thing or no?
I went to Wembley. We did like an amazing live show
Yeah,
final where I was like just like word vomiting how great this moment was.
yeah,
Yeah, alhamdulillah, probably like the women's World Cup's probably the one thing I'm looking forward to this in the
yeah.
next few months or the next month
Yeah.
actually.
Next month, yeah, yeah, literally, literally. But listen, Fadumo, it's been amazing to have you on. Honestly, it's been
Thank
so
you.
insightful. I feel like, especially not just storytelling, but also writing.
Yeah,
Because we got a few writers in our group, and
yeah, definitely. Writers are a rare but great breed, alhamdulillah.
great, yeah, nah, of course. And on top of that, it's like everyone has. I think the amazing part is everyone has their own voice, and it does take a bit to get to that voice, but that's the amazing part of it, is the journey to get to that and developing your craft. But on top of that, just who you are as a person, mashallah, I see you're very humble. um you carry yourself very well. And you're doing amazing stuff for our community, and like we're very, very proud of everything that you're doing and everything that you've achieved so far. So I'm happy beyond words that you're so
No,
gracious enough to spend time to speak to us.
no, honestly, I had a great time. Thank you guys, obviously, for having me. I know it's just you today, but I know there's a whole team behind it, so thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, of course, and definitely we'll have a round two when
Yeah,
everyone kind of comes back, inshallah, and we'll see how your journey's developed along. If you haven't,
I'll be doing well.
left.
No, I haven't left. Don't say
Yeah,
that. I'll be at Sky tomorrow.
yeah. Now, but thank you very much for coming
Guys,
on. We
thank
appreciate you
you.
very much.
Thanks for listening to the Paper Trails podcast. If you like this episode, please leave a review, comment, like, and subscribe. And be sure to follow us on all our socials.
Keep moving, keep growing, keep learning. See you at work.